Well, welcome to Basic Audio Training from Musos. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule to listen to this. But thanks more so for serving at your church if you are serving on the music team. It's a wonderful thing to help lead God's people in praise to Him through song, and we thank you so much for your work. I just want to encourage you in the rehearsals, giving up time for practice, getting there early, leaving late, all the hard work you do. I thank you so much for that, and keep doing it. It's a great service to the body. I'm Joel, and I go to City on a Hill East. I'm an audio engineer, but I'm also a drummer and a guitarist and a few other things. So I guess you can say I've seen this kind of situation, what we're talking about today, from both sides. So hopefully that'll be helpful as we go through. My goal for today is not to turn you into an amazing audio engineer that can just go up the back and critique what the sound guy is doing, tell him all the things he's doing wrong, to know everything about sound. My goal for today is simply to get you to the point where you can rock up on a Sunday, be of most benefit to your sound guy, to your team, to your band, to get to the point where you know how to plug everything in that you need on a Sunday. So with that in mind, let's get started. So before we get on to all the practical things, I just want to spend a moment thinking about what is sound. Sound is vibration of the air at a certain frequency, right? So it's air vibrating at a certain frequency and it travels through the air. It's passed on. It's a bit like, imagine something flapping around outside. Something's flapping around outside, it quite often makes a noise because it's moving the air, it's vibrating the air around it. Or if you've got a massive Perspex kind of sheet and you're shaking it, it quite often produces a noise, right? Because it's vibrating the air. Our vocal folds are quite similar. They vibrate quite quickly, and that produces the sound we sing, the sound we say. That's all done through vibration of the air. Microphones, again, are quite similar. Because all they're doing is they're taking those vibrations through the air and they're just vibrating a little, what's called a diaphragm, and it's converted into an electrical signal. Now it goes through the desk, it comes out the other side, and speakers, again, are pretty similar. They take the electrical signal, amplified of course, and they vibrate the air again. And then you can even take that one step further and say our ears, again, are quite similar. Our ears are like a big antenna that vibrates in response to what the air is doing, and it sends electrical signals to our brain to tell us what sounds we're hearing. So how does this help us? Well, it's quite simple. It means that the further away from a microphone our source of noise is, the harder it is for that microphone to pick up, right? If it's dispersing through the air the vibrations, then the further away, the smaller the vibrations are. So when we come to microphone technique, it's quite simple, right? We want to hold the microphone quite close. Imagine, if you will, it's like an ice cream, right? So imagine it like an ice cream. You want to lick it, but you don't want to lick it, of course, because actually the amount of spit that contains in a microphone is quite gross. But hold it like you're about to lick a microphone, so kind of about that far away. And then it should stay in that position no matter which way your head turns and where your mouth goes. It should stay like that. That's going to give us the best reception. So that's how to use a microphone. So just before we go any further, I just want to take a moment to stop and talk about cables. Broadly speaking, there's two types of cables you'll often need and that you will have used. The first one is an XLR. XLR, it's a 3-pinned one, and it's the standard one that we use for about everything. Now, the trick with XLRs is there's a cable that looks nearly identical, which is called DMX. And DMX is used for lighting and not for sound. So if you're not sure, because it's really hard to tell because they both often have 3 pins, have a look down the cable. Often they'll have something on the cable, and this one says high quality microphone cable. So we know that this one is an XLR and we can use it for sound stuff. The second type of cable you'll often see is just pretty much a basic guitar jack, right? It looks like this. You will have probably used one hundreds of times, but we use a couple of other names for these. So the technical name for these is a 6.35 millimeter jack or a 1/4 inch jack. We refer to them either way, so make sure you know that. I just want to make a few comments about cable management. So the first thing is, cable management is really important. We want our stage to look neat, to look clean, but we also want to reduce things like tripping hazards. The main reason, though, that we actually want clean and neat cables is so we can troubleshoot, so we can follow things through. If something's not working, we have to sort out a massive bunch of cables to work out which cable it is that's not working. It's a lot harder. So we want to keep our cables neat on stage. The other thing to talk about with cables is rolling up cables, right? Now, you've probably seen people do this 100 different ways, and there's a couple of things I just want to raise to your attention, or bring to your attention. The first one is, there's a couple of ways definitely to not roll cables. So the first one is, do not roll cables around your wrist like that. It's terrible for the cable, and it's actually shocking when you go to unpull it the next time. Also, do not roll cables like this. It also creates bends and breaks in the cable. I'm not going to explain the proper technique particularly, besides just you can just do loops. Get your audio engineer to explain it or have a look at some other YouTube videos. The key thing to know about rolling up though is once you've rolled it up, if there's a Velcro tie, please use it. You'd be surprised how many cables I've seen that don't have Velcro ties, or that have Velcro ties but aren't being used. So please use it. And the second one is, the closer you can get the ends, see how they're nice and close to kind of the Velcro tie, the closer you can get the ends, the less likely the cables are going to get twisted and knotted between one another. So they're the two things for cable management. Right, so now we've done that, let's talk about your roll on a Sunday. Your roll on a Sunday is to get totally plugged in. Everything that you need. Ears if you're using ears, foldback if you're using foldback, though we're not going to go through foldback today. Microphones, jacks, DIs, etc. Everything that you need so that you're totally ready and plugged into the desk. Often desks have things like stage boxes like this that you need to plug into. And so if you don't know which one to plug into, ask your audio engineer. Quite often they're labeled, or your audio engineer will tell you exactly which channels you need to plug into. So let's start. The most basic one is plugging in a microphone. If you're a singer, you're going to need a mic, you're going to need an XLR. It's nice and simple. You basically just grab it, plug it in, nice and simply, and then you plug it in to the stage box. Easy. The other thing you're going to need if you are using a microphone quite often is a microphone stand. I've got one here. Now, there's a couple of things I often see wrong about a microphone stand. One is, people often set this up with the center part hitting the ground, like so. Now, the reason this is bad is if I step on one of these sides, all the force actually goes into the one join down here. It's not great, you're likely to break it. So you want to pull that the entire way up, and then if I stand on one of these, the force is actually taken by all three legs. It's a lot more stable like that too. The second thing that I see done wrong with microphone stands is that people tend to just wrench these ends up and not actually loosen this center part first. We really want to loosen this center part first, because otherwise you're going to ruin the grip inside, and everyone hates a microphone stand that through the service slowly does this. So make sure you undo this before you adjust the microphone stand. So using a microphone stand, just make sure you've got the right size clip chucked on. If you don't know where to get your right size microphone clip, ask your sound guy. Chuck your microphone in. Now the other thing I often see done wrong with a microphone stand is people leave the cables kind of hanging out like this. Way out kind of over the end like so. This isn't great. It looks unneat, but also it's quite often a bit of a hazard. Someone might catch it, especially with a guitar, and you'll actually end up pulling either the microphone out or the end out of the microphone. So let's keep that nice and neat down the center pole like so. The other bit for cable management here is we really want to keep the excess cable we've got under the stand. We don't want to keep the excess cable at the stage box, because if I chuck all this cable just on the stage box like that, and then I've got 20 other cables, it's a full mess. So keep excess cable under your microphone stand. Nicely rolled and nicely wrapped. So now I want to talk to you if you're using a DI at all. So that's often your synth players or your guitar players. DIs have three functions. One, they convert signal from high impedance to low impedance. This is important because it actually makes it much more receivable by the desk. The second one is a thing called a ground lift. Now, the ground lift function on this one here, it is down here. It's just a button that goes in or out. This cuts the pathway to ground, or the signal to ground. The reason we might use this is quite often we have a shorted pathway to ground or something like that, and we get this massive hum that comes through the system. So if you plug your guitar or your keyboard in or whatever, and there's a big hum coming through, check your ground. It may be that, and just push it in or push it the other way. The other important thing that a DI box does is it can attenuate the sound or lower the level of the sound. That's important because sometimes instruments put too much volume out for the desk to really handle well. So we sometimes want to use that to reduce the sound a little bit. There's, broadly speaking, two types of DIs. There's active DIs and passive DIs. Passive DIs you just plug and then that's it. But active DIs need power. So often they have a 9-volt battery and they need to be switched on. Or you get what's called 48 volts from the desk. And so if that's the case for your DI, just make sure the sound guy knows that he's got to use 48 volts through. So how might we go about setting up a DI? Well, it's quite simple. We go from our guitar or synth into the DI. Now you'll notice there's an input quite often and there's a link or there's a through. The link or through is actually for you to go into the DI and then out and into an amp if you want to. You can do that. Not recommended, but you can do that. So input into one side using a jack, and then the other side is just an XLR, and we take that straight out and go into the desk or into the stage box, either way. Now there's often a second way that guitarists like to be mic'd up, and that's through their amp or on their amp. And that's fine, and that's great. So I'm just going to briefly show you how to do that. So obviously we want a mic stand, we want a mic. If you want to know which mics to use, ask your sound guy, have a look on YouTube. There's lots to choose from. We just want to position the mic quite close to the center of the cap. Now, the positioning of the mic is quite important, but there's lots of YouTube videos and lots of debate on where you should place it. And it depends on the amp, depends on your preference of sound. So ask your tech guy. But here's the catch. Don't just, because you're not sure, not set up anything. Make sure you set up and you plug your microphone in, you set it all up, and then the tech guy can come and adjust things a little bit. You're going to save him time, and you're going to save time by doing it that way. The same goes actually if you're a drummer. If you're a drummer, you want to set everything up as much as you can. Set your kit up, start clipping on all the mics. I'm not going to go through the clips. There's too many different types and too many different types of mics for drums. Too many different debates about where exactly to place the mics. But the main thing is, make sure you plug everything in. Make sure you run out all the cables, you clip on all the mics, and then your tech guy can come along and help you, but also position the mics exactly where he wants it. But you're going to save a lot of time if you help set everything up. I just want to end by maybe thinking about a few ways that we can communicate between the band and the tech. The first one is get to know your tech guy. He is going to be one of your best friends on a Sunday morning, and so chill out with him, eat food with him, hang out with him, get to know him. If you don't understand anything, ask him. The second one is realize that what you're hearing on stage is actually different to what they're hearing in the congregation. You might be the best muso, and I know lots of musos love to hear exactly what they sound like, but sometimes you've got to trust your tech guy, and you can't hear exactly what he's hearing. And so respect that. If you don't think you can trust your tech guy, maybe it's time to have a conversation with him, ask him to do some training, show him some YouTube videos, work out how you can build that trust relationship. And the last one is, we're all members of the body of Christ, right? So we're all one body. Let's be unified. Let's not just be kind of us and them as it quite often is. Get down to your tech guy's desk, say hi, invite the tech guy onto stage to listen about how things are sounding on stage. Let's be one united body of Christ, both in the way we speak, in the way we love one another, in the way we set up, and the way that we pack down in service to one another. Thanks for watching. Ask any questions, send them through. Leave comments below if you want. I'd love to just encourage you to keep serving, keep doing what you're doing, but let's build and grow and strive to serve God as best we can. Thanks for watching.